It is June 2018, and Tom and I are getting all packed up and ready to fly to Los Angeles for the birth of our son. And I'm really excited, but I'm also a little bit terrified. This is something that he and I have dreamed of for so long. On our very first date, when I came over to London and met him, and then we went down to his family's home in Plymouth, we took a bike ride, and we broke every rule of first dates, and we started talking about marriage and about children, and we named these future children, and we both talked about and understood that, you know, we'd lost a lot of people in our families. My mother, my brother, his father, and we just both felt it was really important for us to grow our families again. And I knew a lot of friends who had had children via surrogacy in California. And to me and to Tom, that seemed like a way to be able to have a biological connection to our children and to again, have this connection from my mom and his dad into our future. And that was important to us. And we've been on that journey for some time now. And I have to say, we kept it very, very private. We kept it just with our families for a very long time until that 20-week scan when it was clear we had a healthy little boy that our surrogate was carrying. And we decided on Valentine's Day to share that with the world. And a lot of the reaction was so positive and wonderful and joyful and sweet and supportive. But then, particularly when we flew back to the United Kingdom from that scan, we saw a lot of comments that were quite negative. We saw a major newspaper say gay dads are not the new normal. And I'd be lying if I said that wasn't hurtful. And it made me start thinking that perhaps there was a side to surrogacy perhaps I didn't know. There were concerns I didn't understand, and I needed to start asking some questions. I wanted to get to the bottom of what it was that bothered some people about surrogacy, and if there were any solutions to those concerns. Now, to understand why some people are uncomfortable with surrogacy, we need to understand why intended parents turn to surrogacy to create their families. And this is where we're going to start, with the stories of two different families, two different methods of surrogacy in two different countries with two very different sets of laws and with two very different price tags. I'm excited for you to meet Helen. Now, she's a first-time mom who had a child through surrogacy here in the United Kingdom. She lives near Manchester, and she came into the studio to share her story of how she built her family and the journey she's been on to have that family.
The first time we found out I was naturally pregnant, we'd only been trying for a couple of months, and I didn't actually realise I was pregnant. I started to feel a little bit unwell and thought, well, it's, you know, all the partying we've been doing. Never actually thinking, oh, actually, I could be pregnant. So we found out I was about 8.5 weeks pregnant when we did a test. Completely in shock and not thinking anything could possibly go wrong, we told our family. And then unfortunately things started to go wrong. We found out that the pregnancy wasn't viable, and then we had to go back to our family and tell them, look, this is what's happened. And it was one of the hardest things we've ever had to do.
And was this your only miscarriage, or did you go through this again?
We went through it again twice more, naturally. Each time the miscarriage was a little bit earlier. You sort of want to keep the pain to yourself in a way, because you don't want to keep putting your family and friends through it. I found as the more hurdles we got, the more determined I became, because as I said before, I'm very stubborn.
Oh, I love that about you already, Helen. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, you turned to medicine to see if there were other ways.
Yeah, so we went back after the 3 natural miscarriages because we'd had several months of trying after those and nothing was happening. So now they said, okay, this is something different. Obviously the stress of what had gone on maybe was affecting things, so they said we'll try some artificial insemination first. So that was done without medication, but basically you went into the hospital and at the right time of the month they would use artificial insemination, but that didn't do anything for us at all. So we had, I think, 10 or 11 rounds of that, so very nearly a year. So then we looked at IVF, which originally we'd said, you know, if we get to that point where we're going to need to have treatment, then we're not going to do it. Well, of course, at this point, we were just grabbing with both hands any opportunity we could to get pregnant.
Now, in case you're curious what IVF stands for, it's in vitro fertilization. And it's a treatment for people who are unable to conceive themselves naturally. It involves collecting a woman's eggs and fertilizing them with sperm in a lab. Then the fertilized egg, called an embryo, is implanted into a woman's womb.